Good morning, everyone. I want to thank all of you for being here this morning. The Subcommittee on Livestock and Foreign Agriculture will now come to order. This morning's subject matter is the implementation of the Farm Bill International Food and Assistance and Development Programs, an effort that our country has been engaged in for decades. And a program that I believe has, or programs I should say, plural, real merit, and in so many different ways, addresses the basic needs of humanitarian assistance around the world, and really, as the richest nation in the world, I think puts America in responding to the needs that are so many out there, and really shows us attempting to put our very best foot forward. We want to hear from the testimony this morning from our two witnesses on the implementation of last year's bipartisan reauthorization of the Farm Bill as it relates to international assistance and the development programs that were part and parcel of that reauthorization. Last year, 80 million people around the world required food assistance that we participated. I suspect the number is greater than that. Over 150 million children under the age of 5 are stunted, it's believed, as a result of malnutrition by various international studies. More than 11 million people alone who have been displaced in Syria and Yemen that are living in refugee camps, we know have been suffering for years as a result of that civil war. And clearly we and the European Union and others are doing what we can, but I suspect more needs to address that. Certainly when I've spoken to the King of Jordan and others, they talk about the great impact that those refugee camps have had. According to the United Nations, the risk of hunger and malnutrition could increase by up to 20% by the middle of this century as a result of climate change and increased population. And let me give you a little perspective on that. About 3 years ago, the planet clicked 7 billion people. Now, to give you some perspective, over 200 years ago, we had 1.7 billion. So in 200 years, we've gone from about 1.7 billion people to 3 years ago, over 7 billion people. And it's estimated by the middle of this century, there will be an additional 2 billion people throughout the world. That's 2 billion more people that need nutrition and need a reliable source of nutrition that goes beyond subsistence. So that's the challenge out there. And obviously, as the chair and members of this subcommittee participate, I also have the good fortune to be on the Foreign Relations Committee, we look to see how we can mitigate and solve these programs through a combined of the best of bipartisan leadership that we have in our country. And so that bipartisan leadership goes back decades. The McGovern-Dole Food for Education, obviously, were by Senators Dole and Senators McGovern, that provided progress and food for peace to build a more prosperous world that provides assistance from American people. And when you look about that efforts going back in the 1980s to today and fast forward, last year we provided almost $4 billion in assistance from the United States in a host of these different programs. $4 billion. That's significant. In the fiscal year 2018, the McGovern-Dole Food for Education program reached over 4 million of the most vulnerable women, infants, and children. And Food for Progress provided nearly 70,000 people to improve their technologies for food for peace, and Title II programs served over 35 million beneficiaries. And to paraphrase a great comment that President Reagan indicated, it's as opposed to providing food, which is always so necessary. If you teach people how to, he was using a fishing analogy, but if you teach people how to grow food, then they can be subsistent on their own. And that's what these programs attempt to do, to enhance our national security, obviously, put our best foot forward, and that increases global security, stability, resiliency, and cooperation. Other efforts like the Farmer-to-Farmer program, the Borlaug program, and the Cochrane Fellowship help expand technical skills across agricultural value chains in the developing world. I've seen that firsthand in India, and it really is a program in which the Indians take a great deal of pride in and support, and it's obviously changed India's ability to provide food for themselves. Through these efforts, we are promoting international partnerships that are critical in this day and age, harmonizing standards that lead to, I think, mutually beneficial trading relationships, because when we have the same standard of food quality and food safety, obviously we can engage in greater trade. Through these efforts, we are promoting international efforts that I think reflect Congress's bipartisan support. So we will request from this administration that these programs continue to bring together a diverse set of important domestic stakeholders, and these stakeholders are American farmers, ranchers, dairymen, and women who provide that food, who produce that food. Nobody does it better than the American farmer. And in providing that support, we improve livelihoods and we build partnerships throughout the breadbasket of America. And at the same time, we address disasters that occur for a combination of reasons around the world. So it's in that role that this subcommittee will ensure, and we want to hear this morning, how these programs, changes from the 2018 Farm Bill, are fully implemented. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today, and in consultation with the ranking member, pursuant to Rule 11E, I want to make sure that members of the subcommittee are aware that other members of the full committee may join us today, and I'll defer to the ranking member for his comments at this time.